Hello everyone. I've seen a number of videos up recently about mining in Elite Dangerous, and they all cover the very basics. When I first tried mining, my initial impression was, wow, I just spent an hour and made 400 credits. This is a huge waste of my time. The basics of knowing mining and learning some of the tips and tricks on how to actually make money on this makes the difference between that few hundred credits an hour and literally hundreds of thousands of credits per hour. So I thought I would share some more advanced tips and tricks on how you can actually make money with this activity. So first of all, let's talk about what you should be mining. You'll find both minerals, which are these guys, anything ending with "ite" or "light, as well as some metals while mining. Just looking at the prices here, it is definitely the metals we are going to be going for. We'll end up with some minerals, but they're almost a waste of hull space. Bertrandite is actually the most expensive stuff, and it pales in comparison compared to, say, platinum at 19,000 and up, or palladium at 13,000 and up. So the first thing is to find a place where you're actually going to mine. This is probably the most important part. So I am currently in 68 Draconis. It's a fair way across the pill from the starting systems, but this system was actually found and publicized by TroublePilot on the forums, and he actually wants this publicized to create a gold rush. So there are a few things you want to consider when figuring out where you're going to mine. The most important thing is the mineral deposit. So you can look around at high population sectors in System View Map, trying to find places that are worthwhile. Buying system information is probably better than just finding it yourself. And as of beta 3.4, any system with more than 1 million population is already going to be explored for you. So just looking around the galaxy map, you might be able to find something, or you can always come out to 68 Draconis. So the first thing we want to look at is planetary rings. These ring clusters, you'll see these as local extraction points in Super Cruise. Don't bother with these. These are worthless. You'll go there, you'll find 6 rocks. They'll be a fair ways away. Maybe one of those rocks will have anything worth mining, and then you're out in Super Cruise again. It's a waste of time. Planetary rings are where you want to be mining. So first of all, you want to find a planet with metallic rings. Rocky rings are going to give you mostly the minerals, which are hundreds to thousands. Metallic is going to get you the many thousands, or even into the tens of thousands per ton commodities. The other thing you want to look at is the how mined out they are. So on planetary rings is at the top here. Pristine reserves, I believe, is the best. It's the best I've seen. So this is a pretty good spot to mine. The other thing you want to consider, although it's less important, is where you're actually going to sell this stuff. A decent station in system is going to save you fuel and travel time. Here we have this system, which is importing metals, which is great. If we look at out at the galaxy map, this is actually an industrial system. This is actually what we want, this or high tech. Refineries will buy minerals and sell metals, so you do not want to be mining metals in a refinery system because they're going to have already as many metals as they want. So while we're in Super Cruise, let's talk about mining equipment. So at the very basics, you of course need a mining laser and a refinery module. I've equipped a C2 mining laser in this Cobra. The C1s are serviceable. C2s seem to be... they mine faster, but you don't get any more ore out of them or anything. But now that we have multiple ship ownership, you might as well specialize your ships. This is a Cobra. I believe it's currently the optimal ship for mining. It's relatively cheap. It can store a decent amount of ore. It has plenty of internal spaces for hard points, and you can still afford to mount things like shield cells and all the other things that you want to just keep yourself and your hull of ore safe. It's and then most importantly, it's also maneuverable enough because you're going to be spending a fair bit of time scooping cargo, flying back and forth, maneuvering around asteroids. You don't want to be doing this in a Lakon. A hauler is probably a decent starting mining ship, but you'll definitely want to upgrade to a Cobra as quickly as possible. As far as refineries go, the major difference between them is the number of refinery slots. Basically, this says how many different types of mineral you can be collecting at one time. You'll want at least 4, 5 is better, maybe 6 slots. If you're in a place with decent minerals, you'll probably be gathering at least 4 different kinds of actually valuable metals, and then you'll want 1 slot as a junk slot that you can just put whatever the other minerals you find are in, so you don't have to constantly be venting your refinery module into space after every single pickup. So here we are at 68 Draconis C2. So the first thing is note the ring system. 68 Draconis C2, if you'll recall, actually has 2 rings around it. The metallic ring and a rocky ring. So there are 3 ring types in the game. There are metallic, rocky, and ice. The ice will be very bright white. There isn't one here. The rocky are the brown rings. You'll find minerals instead of metal in there, so you don't want to go there. And then the darker gray ring, that's your metallic ring. That's where the money is. The other thing to consider is you'll see that these rings will generally have resource extraction sites. Don't go there. They're not for you. They're a bad idea. Basically, they are overrun with pirates and other miners, NPCs and player bounty hunters. There's not really any reason to go to a resource extraction site when we can just go into the rings themselves and we'll be perfectly safe, no risk of encounters, no risk of players finding us. It's just the better place to be. So the last consideration is we are going to want to be mining on the day side of the planet. Just stay out of the planet's shadow or you're going to have a heck of a time navigating. So just fly really close to the rings, drop your speed down to minimum, just nose up. And then drop. And here we are. A non-extraction point. Basically there are unlimited rocks for us. This is a good place to mine, completely safe. The first part of mining is just picking a rock, seeing what it has. There's currently no way to detect remotely what an asteroid contains, but every chunk that comes out of it will always be the same. So just fly up, get within your mining laser range, make a cut, see what comes out, just indite. So what you're willing to pick up is going to really be up to you. My threshold is I want about 1,000 credits for every scoop I make because it's one of the most time consuming parts of this process. So I'm not going to bother with 20% indite. That's chump change. So I'm just going to head to the next rock. Now, it's easy to get turned around in these asteroid fields, especially after you've been mining a rock and scooping up a bunch of stuff. You can end up going in circles and re-examining the same rocks over and over and over again. So I generally head towards the planet between rocks. Oh, and need to readjust power. Galite, Bertrandite, worthless. So by always heading towards the planet, I know I'm not going to end up going in circles. This isn't about thoroughness, it's just about getting from rock to rock and not retracing your steps. We have Galite and Indite. Still not worth it. In this mineral field, I've found I usually end up examining 7 or 8 asteroids for every one I'm actually willing to mine. But there are millions of these things, so... $15% gold. That's worth it. So, the next consideration is where we're going to make our cut. This actually sort of matters. It's not going to affect how much material you get out of it, but it's going to affect the next and most time-consuming stage, which is retrieving it. I'm not going to bother chasing down that first piece of rock. I can always come back for it later. I'm going to move and spend a bit of time trying to find an optimal place to cut. So the direction and distance a scoopable chunk of ore comes off is non-random. It seems to be dependent on where the point is you're digging is compared to the center of mass of the asteroid, and something about the normal of the polygon that you're actually mining. So to make my life easier later when I need to scoop this stuff up, I want a nice consistent drop, ideally in a nice line of ore. So what I want to do is I'm going to find about the pole of the asteroid, so the axis about it's rotating. This can be easier or harder to judge. It doesn't need to be exact, just some place where the rotation rate is reasonably low. And then I'm going to find a spot which I know isn't going to go out of my line of sight. So I'm going to just pick, say, this face here. And I'm going to, actually, a little bit low. You don't need to be too precise about this. And then I'm going to start digging. And I'm going to try to keep my laser pointed at the same spot. And I'm going to target the first bit that comes out for reference. So what I'm listening for is there's sort of a rumbly rock shake every time a node of ore appears. And basically we're done digging when you don't hear that sound anymore. And that's it for this one. So now if you'll see, because the asteroid was rotating at a constant rate and I was digging from the same place, these nodes are in a nice gentle arc, nicely spaced out to make scooping a lot easier. So I'm just going to come around to that first one I targeted. It'll be settled by the time I'm out here, deploy my cargo scoop, and this will be a nice, quick scoop. So it's going to line up nicely for the first one. Scoop, back out, target the next one. When your hopper fills, you'll get the red resources allocated sign. That just basically means you're going to need to move something from your hopper here into an actual bin. This is why it's good to have more bins than you need, because if I didn't have a bin for indite, I would basically have to dump it. I'd have to vent it every time. So I know the next couple pickups I'm going to do are golden indite, so I assign a golden indite to each of those, and then I can scoop for the most part. Oh, it's unlucky there. Well, I guess lucky depending on how you judge it. But most of these I'm not going to have to revisit that cargo panel for each one. It's a time saver. So I'm just going forward, scooping, reverse thrust, finding the next. So there, more indite. And the next. If they're very tightly clustered, you may end up bumping them, which can be a pain in the butt. And then I'm just going to check for that first one. It actually decayed. Normally, don't worry about it. You have more than enough to grab that first one that floats off. I was talking, so I didn't. And there's an asteroid scooped, and we ended up with a golden indite, so that's about 11,000 credits. And I'm going to head towards the planet and go look at the next one. So, for comparison, I'm going to find a reasonably rapidly spinning oblong rock, and I'm not going to pay attention to how I approach this thing in mine it. So if I just run up to this thing and just from a random angle and just point at it and start digging, out of curiosity, it's worthless anyway. There's not going to be nearly as much of a pattern of where these things come off because I'm digging all over where the asteroid is. The thing's rotating. They're coming off at at speeds relative to where they're released, just depending on the spin. You can actually end up in situations where the asteroid ends up bumping them if it's particularly oblong and they scatter all over the place. I can actually end up being hit by the asteroid if I approach it from the wrong direction. And as you can see, a couple of these are nice clusters, but like they're scattered all over the place. It's complete chaos. I don't want to dig this. It's going to double or triple the amount of time I spend scooping, which means it's lost money. So it's worth spending that 10-15 seconds at the start just to make sure you're lined up and you've dug the asteroid in such a way that you end up with a nice, easy to scoop cargo. That's pretty much it. I'm going to continue digging until I have a full hold. So it's been about 45 minutes of total mining, and I've filled up my 32 tons of cargo capacity. Now it's just time to return to the station and sell it.
Drive charging. Ready to engage. 4, 3, 2, 1. Engage.
So, transporting your ore back to a station to sell it is by far the most dangerous time as a miner. While you are in a planetary ring, as long as you're away from an extraction point, you will basically never see anyone. I suppose it's theoretically possible that if someone dropped out of Super Cruise near you, they could find you, but we're talking such a vast amount of space here that it's never going to happen. NPC pirates just won't spawn, they won't find you. You don't get an unidentified signal source for other people to find you. You're basically perfectly safe. It's only during this run between the planetary ring and the station that you're at any risk at all. Now, even that said, unless you're a starting miner in a hauler, it's a Cobra. Plenty of people use these as combat ships. You'll have problems with asps, but you'll be able to outrun or outfight just about anything, even with your one of your weapon hardpoints taken out. So just run. You're the fastest thing around, even full of ore. And we're back safe and sound.
Request granted. Scan detected. Landing gear deployed. Docking successful. Engines disengaged.
So it is probably not worth checking the bulletin board for missions to return the goods you actually just mined if you're mining in the same system. Generally, the things the station has will be the things that were mined in the area, so there won't be shortages. So this is about, let's say it's about 5 minutes to get out there and mine that initial asteroid. So that was solid 50 minutes to an hour worth of work there and back again. So I've got 524,000 in the bank now. So I came out of that with about 210,000 credits for an hour's worth of work. And if anything, it's actually a little bit low. I usually find in this system it's about 250,000 per run. I just ended up with some more minerals there than I usually did, and the talking and filming slowed things down a bit. But yeah, as long as you are in a decent system and digging for minerals, I think this is definitely a viable way of making money. This is how I've been earning credits to equip my my counter-piracy Viper. It doesn't beat that, oh, here's 100,000 credits for delivering fish within 5 minutes, missions that you sometimes get, or even those beat an anaconda for 150k, assuming the bounty works missions. The big difference is this is reliable. This doesn't, as long as you find a system you can do it in, you can reliably go out and make money at a constant rate, and it's a fair bit of money too. It's not the most exciting activity in the game. But it's actually kind of nice and relaxing, and it's great to just sit here and watch YouTube while you're playing. Things I'd change, I think if anything it's a little too safe right now. I wouldn't mind occasional pirates or system security vessels checking out unidentified contacts in the rings. It'd be nice if players dropped out of super crews would occasionally emit unidentified signal sources for other players to check out. Just those basic things to make the game a little bit more interesting. You wouldn't want a lot, maybe a random encounter every hour or so. It would be enough to spice things up and maybe introduce some stealth gameplay where you realize, oh, I'm digging, oh, there's an unidentified contact, I'm going to go silent for a bit and hide behind this rock until they go away. But overall, it's entirely workable.